Hello everybody, my name is Joshua.
My name's Paige.
And we would like to welcome you back to another episode of Coffee, Cats, and King, where we will discuss books, both new and old.
We'll share with you pictures of our cat. No, why does that not sound right when I say it?
Go ahead, you're right.
We will share with you pictures of our cats who make you wish they were your cats.
And I will drink enough coffee for me, Paige, and everyone watching.
It doesn't sound as good.
Hey, it's fine. The mug today, it's definitely not going to focus, but it's a bunch of cats. We are back today with another Sunday Scaries, so we're not actually talking about books today, but I've been having a lot of fun with these, and I think Paige has too.
Me too, yeah.
This one is a pretty special one, I think. I kind of have a semi-plan on what I intend for us to watch in the future.
Okay.
Obviously, the movies that I'm sure will, you know, pop up, and I'll say, oh yeah, that's right, we have to watch this, whatever. But point being, I think this is the second oldest movie that we will be watching in this Sunday Scaries.
How old is it?
This is from 1932.
Whoa. That is really old.
If I can find my phone here, I'm going to give this to you where I have the synopsis and the movie pulled up for the big reveal where you can read the synopsis to us.
Why am I nervous?
It's fine. I think you're really going to love this one.
Okay.
But before we do that, let's have Havoc introduce the film. All right, and today's feature will be
Freaks?
Freaks.
I've never heard of this movie. Okay. It makes me think of that town that you told me about that has like the circus performer people.
Gibsonton, Florida.
Yeah. It makes me think of that.
Gibsonton, Florida is the last official freak show in America.
So is that what it's about? Let's see. It says, in a nutshell, compassionate, depressing, and exotic. This is a horror movie?
Interestingly enough, these are all things that have been used to describe us as well.
Depressing?
Well, we set such high standards as a couple that others just can't compare.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay, it says, oh my.
Yeah.
That sound kind of intense.
Okay. Before we even get into the movie, I will share a few facts. This movie was directed by Todd Browning.
Okay.
He had an incredibly promising career. And this movie, most people consider to be his masterpiece, if you will.
Okay.
This was where he was showing people that he was really going to do something in film. Unfortunately, this film was banned in most places when it came out. And was totally trashed and taken apart. And it basically destroyed his career. So despite the fact that now everyone considers it an absolute masterpiece, and
the world just wasn't ready for it back then.
we basically just lament the loss of what he probably would have done had he been allowed to continue.
I'm already depressed.
Great. What is really cool about this film, the actors and actresses in this film were actual sideshow performers. Many of which, up to that point, some were the more popular performers who had taken on managers and were, you know, actually in control of their own finances and such. Some of them were not. Much like the so-called Elephant Man of the time, who these folks were seen as less than human, less than people. So they weren't always given any sort of financial control. They were basically treated almost as slaves. But in this film, he wanted to be able to show people that hey, these are human beings.
Yeah.
They're just people. They're very special people. And so I thought it was really awesome that he used actual sideshow performers, that every single one of them was given, their proper pay and care during the filming of this movie. And it's also kind of fascinating because it could be argued that this is one of the very first revenge films. And some argue that this is an exploitation film simply because actual sideshow performers and those who were in freak shows were used.
Got it.
But
they weren't actually like exploited technically.
No, not in this. A lot of people argue that this movie is more just a drama, a slice of life, if you will, to show what it was like.
Yeah.
There is a turning point in the movie where, where it gets its horror bill, if you will. But aside from that, it's just very, very cool to see the representation that was not given.
Especially because it was so early on.
Yeah, there are very few performers who, like I said, were in control of themselves. Now there are one or two in this that they did have full-on movie careers, but it's because well, we don't need to get into all that. This is a topic that I was endlessly fascinated by when I was young and did a lot of research into. And I can, for those that are interested, I can offer some really, really great books about some of these performers, their lives, the practices back then, and just the whole time period in general. But if you're interested, we'll talk about that in the comments or something.
See, it's still about books.
It is still about books. Yeah. And because of the angle of this camera, it makes my hand look humongous. Anyway, this is a very special film. It's special to me and special to a lot of other people.
No pressure.
But we're gonna go on and get into it and see what you think.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Movie has ended. And well, you've had 35 seconds now to process. So, what do you think?
I did like it. I think like what you were saying at the beginning, it really was more about like good representation. It makes me think now even how people are still treated that way. You know what I mean? And the fact that this came out in the 30s.
Right.
It was definitely like ahead of its time. But I feel like it doesn't count as a horror movie though. You think?
So there's a lot of argument there.
I mean, I guess back then,
I think originally it was labeled as horror, partly because, despite the fact that Todd Browning was trying to represent these people as people, it ended up being marketed almost as, hey, come see the freaks. Now, that said, like I said, the movie is very short. It's barely an hour.
Yeah, it's very short. I kind of wish I didn't read the summary. Because it's kind of like when you're trying to explain a novela to somebody, like you can't really explain much because then you give it away.
It is because so much of it was forcibly cut. So this movie is actually 30 or 40 minutes longer than what we see, but unfortunately that footage has all been lost because it's such an old film. The type of film that they were using at the time. As you probably know, slightest bit of wrong exposure either ruined the film or caused it to burn altogether, because it was essentially nitrile. It's gone. So we know certain things that were supposed to happen in the film and that did happen in the film that had to be pulled because it wasn't allowed to be aired. So for instance, a particular someone is punished at the end with castration, which is rather fitting, but and it that ending scene evidently was supposed to be much more graphic than what we saw.
Because here it's kind of implied. We don't actually see all.
But,
I see what you're saying.
From what was pulled, it was less implied and more played out. So I think that's part of it too, maybe. But like I said, ultimately, I think the horror stamp was put on there simply because of the performers themselves, unfortunately.
Because there would probably be people uncomfortable.
And it did.
Yeah.
There was a lot of, well, like I said, this film pretty much ruined Todd Browning's career, which is a shame.
Yeah.
Because it's an excellent film. And yes, maybe I was cheating a little bit by playing it for you as a horror film. Because I wanted you to see it. But I think that the implications of the ending, and that scene going into it, which you know what I'm referring to,
it could be seen as horrific.
It gets to people sometimes. What are your thoughts? What is your rating of this movie?
He definitely gets a lot of points for the way that he did the casting and the concept, for sure. I think those two things carry a lot of weight. But I think, like, because it's such an old movie, and I think, like, some of the, like, I am disappointed that there's a lot, like, missing. Because it definitely feels that way when you watch it.
Yes.
So, I don't know. Like, I love the concept so much. But I feel like I wish it could be, like, redone as, like, a modern movie, because then...
So someone did that.
I mean? Oh, no, it's probably terrible.
They turned it into, like, a splattery, Saw Hostel-esque...
okay, never mind.
What we would refer to as torture porn. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I don't know how to rate it.
So, I know, it's a tough one.
Because there are parts that I feel like were lacking.
Because so much of the movie was pulled, so then this poor guy had to piece together the parts that he was allowed to keep, essentially, of his film. So I can understand why it would be difficult to rate, so...
Yeah, I feel like a 3 would be solid. Because there were things I liked, but it also didn't, like, wow me. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a... But it's memorable, obviously, because of how unique the concept is. So I think it is something that is going to, like, stick with me.
Yeah.
But it didn't necessarily, like, wow me. So I feel like a 3 is a safe rating.
Okay. Do you have any questions, comments, anything you would like to share with folks that might be interested in watching the movie, that would convince them to watch it or to not watch it?
Well, I think as long as you're an open-minded person and not one of those jerks who looks at people like that and judges them. There are definitely people that I know who, like, would not like that movie. Because they would be one of those people who would be, like, uncomfortable, or, you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I do.
Yeah. So it's sad that there are people like that still.
Don't be that person.
But I would like to think that none of those people are on this channel. So I think we're okay.
I said if you are, you can leave.
Yeah.
We don't want you.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it is an eye-opening movie for sure.
Yeah.
I think especially with like how people treat people nowadays for other groups, in terms of gender, sexuality, race, it translates to so many areas of humanity, I think. So,
it absolutely does.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
still relevant.
Yeah. As they say in the movie, you know, these are, he says it at the very beginning, you know, these are just people.
Yeah.
We're all just
how they're
people.
Born into this world.
We're born this way.
Yeah.
It does not make us flawed. It does not make us anything other than us.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's obviously a really powerful message that I think a lot of people need to be reminded of. And I hate that it takes extreme things like this for people to see it.
The portrayal of these performers at the time was, of course, as freaks and outcasts of society, whereas in the movie he makes it very clear that, well, in this movie anyway, the only villains are the quote-unquote normal people. I appreciate that it's not a universal rule either. We still have our clown, who is a normal person, who is also, you know, a sweetheart, a nice guy. Todd Browning did something that no one else had done, and that really no one else has done. He stood by it the whole way. Because it wasn't about that. It was, again, it was about the people.
Right.
So, a lot of relevance to our current times. A lot of historical significance here, I think, in this film.
For sure.
And just a very powerful message. These people that you call different and outcasts and freaks, they're going to stick together, and they are probably a much stronger unit than any sort of bigotry or hypocrisy, any hate that you may have for them. Right. So, anything else that you would like to add, darling?
I think like the theme of shame is also, I think, interesting in this movie, because they don't really feel shame until someone else makes them feel shame. Whereas the normal people, they like feel shame, like they put shame on themselves. I'm not explaining this well. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like how the concept of shame, we almost like self-impose it on ourselves.
You know, again, these are folks that are used to others looking at them as if they're doing something wrong by just being.
Yeah.
And it was important, again, for him to show that that they know that, hey, we are just people.
Yeah.
This is us. This is the way that we live. This is the way we do things. The way we have to do things to survive. And they have come to terms with it, whether the people around them can or not.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's kind of cool because, yeah, there's a level of confidence there that I think most people strive for but just don't have.
Yeah, I think it comes from acceptance.
Yeah, most of us just don't have the confidence to accept ourselves for who we are. Whereas these performers say, you know what? Hey, this is us. If you want to stare, you want to gawk, you want to laugh, you want to do whatever, fine. I'm going to get paid for it.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to be me. And it's great. So.
Yeah. Embracing what makes us different is not a bad thing.
Yeah. So, I guess that's it for tonight, guys. Like I said, this was a special one.
Yeah.
I was really looking forward to this one. And I'm really glad that I got to share it with this woman right here. So, thank you all for joining us. We'll be back again soon with another one. And I will be on with some bookish videos very soon. So, stay safe. Drink great coffee.
Cheers.
Cheers. Emmett did not make it through the movie. This little baby angel made a cocoon for himself, a little nest, out of the material from a package that I got the other day. It's okay, buddy. You're just going back to sleep. It's okay. We love you. You look like you could fit inside a cup. You're adorable.